Hey there, it's Stephanie Shea, Chief Astrologer for janspiller.com, and I'm here to do a special how-to video. This is my first how-to video on YouTube. There may be more to come. I get the ideas to do these types of video from my clients, and a lot of my clients are fans of Jan Spiller's book, New Moon Astrology. It's such a useful book for people who like to work with the moon cycles and set their intentions at every new moon. And I had a client recently ask, how do you find when the new moon is in a certain house in your birth chart? Because when you're setting intentions in this book, Jan will talk all about, okay, it's an Aries new moon. Here's all the Aries themes and wishes having to do with those themes that are especially supported. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. You can also look in your birth chart and find out what house, using Aries as an example, what house would the Aries new moon fall in for you? And it takes a bit of astro know-how, but not too much. I feel that even the beginner can be empowered to just know this much about their chart and add extra oomph, shall we say, to your new moon wishes or intention setting. Because then, for example, if the new moon was in Aries, you'd think, okay, Aries themes, that has to do with physical wellness or taking a risk, being confident. But let's say the new moon fell in your fourth house. That house has to do with home and family, real estate, better relationships with your family members, or buying or selling a house. These types of things, you can add those themes in for extra power. And when you start tracking the new moons around your chart, it can be very useful, practical tool to plan, okay, here's when I really want to focus on these issues. At this particular new moon, I'm being the most supported to take certain steps forward. So what I'm going to do is walk you through how to access your birth chart for one, because you have to have a good birth chart that shows the degrees that start and end each house. So the free one you get on astro.com is not so great for that. You can't really see numbers on the outside. So we've got one on the Jan Spiller site that is really easy to read, and it's free. And then the other piece of information you would need to know if you don't know a lot of astrology is what the astrological symbols mean. And that is widely available online. If you did a Google search, for example, for astrological glyphs, you will be able to see, oh, okay, those squiggly lines, that means Aquarius, or, you know, that little thing that looks like a bull with horns on top, oh, that's Taurus. That's another piece you would need to know. But other than that, you really don't need to know a lot of astrology to understand where the houses are, where they start and end, and where the new moons would fall. So let us go to the Jan Spiller site. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see. Let's check this out. Okay, so I'm now in the site, and what we want to go to is under free tools. So I believe astrology, free guidance, boom. Then we've got all these fun little things. Maybe if you've never been to the site, you can ask the goddess a free question. You can make a power wish. You get some free full moon. There's a lot, free monthly horoscope. But natal chart is what we're going for right now. And I'm going to just do a fake one. So we will say this person is Mary, example. Oh, that's her middle name. Let's make that her last name. And I will use my email, cardinalfireastrology@gmail. You would put your email, of course. Let's see. Let's have our example person born in New York. Why not? NY. And let's say they were born on April 1st. April Fools. Probably not 1900. Let's give them what sounds good. 1985, sure. And time of birth, let's say 4:05 a.m. Whatever. You're putting all your birth information in there. Now, if you don't know your time of birth, you can use what's called a sunrise chart. You will get your houses in this chart, but I have to give you the warning that it might not be exactly what your houses really are. If you don't know your time of birth, finding the new moon in your chart is a little bit more problematic. You can experiment with the sunrise chart, kind of see how that works for you. But ultimately, if you're able to find your actual time of birth, that is ideal. And a lot of states have what's called a long form birth certificate. So you can call up, I think it's the Department of Vital Records in each state. And if you only had a birth certificate without a time, sometimes you're able to send away, I don't know what they're charging these days, $20, $30 or more, but it's pretty useful if you're really into astrology to know that exact time of birth. So there's long form birth certificate. I know there's other people who might be adopted or for other reasons not know their time of birth. Try out this sunrise chart and see how it works for you. But otherwise, you're gonna put in your time of birth, hit continue, and oh, I forgot to agree to the terms of service. So let's see. Privacy, that's good. All right, so now what it will do, it verifies this information, you hit submit, and it will email you the chart. However, here's a little tip for you. This little icon, even though it doesn't look like it would do anything, boom, it actually opens the chart. So you can look at it right in the website. So that's kind of cool. So now what we are looking for are these numbers. And let's see if I can make this bigger. There we go. There are these numbers kind of along these edges. And each little piece of pie in this birth chart represents a house, which represents an area of life. So for example, this little number 1 right here, that's the first house, the house of self. That's really good for personal goals, anything having to do with you or your physical body or something that's very uniquely personal to you. Second house example here has to do with finance and your self-worth. So these house themes, that is another piece of the puzzle that you kind of need to know. And there's some decent descriptions out there online. Actually, Jan wrote some pretty good descriptions of each house. And I think they're in some of her other books, potentially Spiritual Astrology, if you've heard of that book. But you can find some quick guides. That was another piece of the puzzle you'll need. If you don't know the themes of each house, that's important to know. Because say there was a new moon in this house, the 6th house, and you didn't know what the 6th house represented, you wouldn't get the information you need. You kind of want to know, ooh, if there's a new moon in this house, what are those themes and how can I apply that to my intention setting? And so the thing to know is no matter what these numbers or symbols are on the outside of the wheel, these houses are always in the same position. And this is always first house. This is always house of self. This is always second house. This is always the themes of self-worth, finance, resources, etc. For as you go through each house, that part does not change. Now, here's what is unique and what does change in each person's birth chart. It is the sign on this very outer wheel that rules or is at the beginning of each house. So here you see the number 29, which is kind of bigger, and the number 38. That means 29 degrees and 38 minutes of this sign. And if anyone knows what these mean, you know this is the Aquarius sign. But if you don't know it, what the astrology symbols mean, that's where you can find a guide, astrological glyphs, and you will be able to see, they're all over the internet. Oh, wait, 29 degrees of this squiggly line, that's Aquarius. You know, that's, you can kind of have fun learning as you go that way, but maybe a lot of you know these symbols. The signs go between 0 and 29 degrees for a total of 30 degrees per sign. And there's 12 houses. That's why the whole wheel ends up to be 360 degrees. So what this all means is this example person that we did has a 29 degree and 38 minute Aquarius rising. And that begins their whole first house. You can see here's Pisces. The whole sign of Pisces lives inside the first house. And then the second house does not start until you see the number 17. 17 degrees of Aries and 9 minutes. Minutes, not as important, but let's say the new moon was at 17 degrees and 8 minutes. Well, maybe that 9 would make a difference. You'd think, it's kind of still a first house new moon, but it's so darn close to the second house. I would apply intention settings to both of those areas of life myself. Now, the other thing to know about this wheel in this house system, this is called the Placidus house system. Some other websites and other astrologers will show the signs kind of rounded off. You wouldn't see a sign like this Pisces hiding inside a house. They would assign one sign per house and they all start at 0 degrees. That's one way to do it. If you choose, this is where astrology kind of branches off into different schools of thought. Jan used Placidus. I'd say Placidus is one of the most widely used house systems in Western astrology. I've personally found it to work great. And I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. So that is why we're using these charts with Placidus. It's going to have more than one sign per house. So in recap, this first house of this person's chart starts at 29 Aquarius and goes all the way through 17 Aries, right? Now, let's say there was an Aries new moon coming up and it was at 16 degrees of Aries. Well, if you know that your second house does not start until 17 degrees of Aries, that new moon is just inside that first house. And, you know, it's close. I might also make second house intentions if it's within a degree or so. But technically, that's where it falls. Any degree of Pisces, now looking at this chart, you would know it doesn't matter what degree of Pisces, that new moon is going to fall in this person's first house because the whole entire sign of Pisces is in there. Now, Aquarius, you're thinking, oh, they're Aquarius rising. However, they're a 29 degree Aquarius rising. So unless the new moon is 29 degrees, that's kind of a first house new moon for them. But most of this Aquarius lives in the 12th house, as you can see. So this is why it's really important, if you know your time of birth and you have these exact numbers on the house edges, then you can start piecing together, oh, what is inside the first house? And again, you have to know what these squiggles mean. This might mean nothing to somebody, but you can look it up and it's actually Capricorn. And Capricorn is drawn a couple of different ways, the squiggle, but you can still tell there's nothing as squiggly looking as that. I think it's supposed to look like a goat, I'm not sure. But if you see something really squiggly and it doesn't look like any of these other signs, it's Capricorn. But a lot of people draw it this way. It's almost like a weird cursive letter B with a tail on it. So in this person's chart, you can see 15 degrees and 4 minutes of Capricorn starts the 11th house, right? And then their 12th house begins with 27 degrees. That was weird for a minute. It looked backwards, but it's 27 degrees and 12 minutes of Capricorn. Another thing that helps you on this wheel, if you start to wonder, like I just kind of did looking at this, oh, green is earth in the color key. So Capricorn is an earth sign. You can see how far it stretches. And just the last few degrees after 27, you've got 28, 29 falling inside this 12th house. Then this yellow signifies Aquarius. Yellow is air. Well, where else are there air signs? Oh, look, Gemini, yellow. Libra, yellow. So the color coding might also help you. That's kind of what I like about this chart that's on our website. It is the same looking chart you will get in the Time Passages software created by Henry Seltzer, who was a close friend of Jan Spiller's, and she contracted him to create the chart making software for her website. So you're getting a professional grade chart that that comes from software that professional astrologers use. And I find it really clear and easy to use. Once you know what these symbols mean, it's a matter of just reading the numbers and not confusing degrees with minutes, which I almost did here because the way it was written sideways, but it didn't make sense because I thought, oh, if this is 15 Capricorn, there's no way this is 12 Capricorn. That would be going backwards. So then I realized, okay, this is 27 Capricorn, 12 minutes. So you're going to have to maybe spend a little time playing with it, experimenting. Some people really just want to have an astrologer to talk to them about this. That's totally fine too. But I really like to empower people to use their own charts just for some simple practical things like intention setting. And a lot of people have fun with this. And since a client just recently brought this up, I thought it would be really fun to do a how-to video. So I hope this kind of helps you to target where the new moon is each month. You might be wondering, well, how do I find out what degree the new moon is in? Well, there's a lot of different sources for that. There are astrological calendars for sale. Llewellyn's is one of the most famous one, or We Moon. They will tell you the degree and the sign, and they'll tell you the degree in the minutes and the sign, so you can get super exact. Some people don't like to fool with all that. Again, if you want to keep it simple and also want to support Jan Spiller's legacy, for $4.95 a month, you can be part of the silver membership level, and you get the new moon degree and everything emailed to you just in time every month to help your intention setting and have a little write-up about what some of these themes are about. So that's something to consider too. There's a lot of different ways to do this, but That's how Jan set it up so that people could use her site as a resource and keep the memberships low cost, so that if people, yeah, they really don't want to be looking in books and all that kind of thing, they could just get the information. Now, of course, you won't be emailed what house it is for you, because we would have no way of knowing that. So that's something you would want to pull up your chart on her website and at least try to learn where your houses end and begin. So I hope that makes some sense to you. You can see 17 Aries through 19 Taurus. That's this person's second house. 19 Taurus through 13 Gemini. That's the person's third house, and so on. And once you have that nailed down, you know, maybe you have a printout of your chart, or maybe you just write down in a list, first house, 29 Aquarius to 17 Aries, using this example. And then when you see the number and the sign of the new moon, you look and you're like, okay, what house does that fall in? This can be very empowering, and these new moon intentions are really powerful. I've used them in my life now, and I've found them to be quite effective. You just got to keep doing them every month. So I'll stop this screen share, and I hope that was a helpful video for everyone, and you can use these free tools on the website. And happy new moon wishing, everybody.